What's going on, everybody? Zera back with another video. Today we're going to be going over, one of my patrons suggested that we do a top 10 or top 5, he didn't really specify what number, but just a tips and tricks video for classic WoW. So as I started jotting down these notes, I went through probably about 3 or 4 steno pages. As most of you may know, steno notebooks are my go-to note takers. When I go to work, I spend the majority of my time writing down stuff for work on a steno notepad. So it's easy for me to just bring a second one that I can jot down in my spare time, notes about a classic. Video ideas, stream ideas, whatever. So today we're going to go over a top 10 list for tips and tricks to improve your class fantasy for classic WoW. So let's begin. Number 1, this is classic. This is not vanilla. Okay? Now the difference between those two, the distinguishment is that vanilla is gone. We're never getting vanilla again. It's never going to happen. Classic is a modern take on what vanilla was. Yes, the spirit of vanilla is going to live through classic, but there are so many things that classic has that vanilla did not. So, and there's tons of videos on this. I may even do one myself in the future. But the big takeaway for step number 1, for tip number 1, is study all the relative information that is out there. There's so much information about what to, what not to do, what's the best class and race combinations, what's the best profession combinations with certain classes, depending on whether you're a PvE player, a PvP player, so on and so forth. All that information is out there, and this is going to be so much more unique than any other World of Warcraft launch that there's ever been. Probably more unique than any launch ever in any gaming history, because it is so unique in the fact that we know everything that's coming. There's not going to be any surprises, and all that information's been out there for years, and it's only gotten more compounded, more complex, and more thorough. So take advantage of that opportunity. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, while min-maxing may be important to some people, please do not ruin it. The likely first-time experience for a lot of other players. Min-maxing, I understand, is more or less a equation or a science that fits being able to do maximum amount of damage, maximum amount of uptime, or however you want to equate this, instead of by putting in the minimum amount of effort. Okay, so you spec a certain way, you get a certain amount of gear, you get a certain amount of professions, or a certain amount of items, or mats, whatever. That is the idea behind min-maxing. And to improve your quality experience for your class fantasy is going to be not to limit yourself based on what the min-max equation is. Go out and experience the world in its entirety. Don't just focus solely on what some people or other people or guides tell you to do, because if you do that, then it just becomes literally just checking boxes, and that right there is not going to give you the equivalence of what all of us who actually played vanilla got to experience, which is just the awness and the amazement of such a small yet wide-ranging world. Tip number 3, take time at the character creation screen. This is your look, and this is who you are going to be known as. So be committed to whatever facial hair, hair color, whatever you choose. Not to mention race, class. I mean, that goes without saying. Take the time to pick your name and everything else that's involved in that process, because this is going to be the character you're going to be known as on your server. Yes, I understand that layering, all that other stuff that's going to be going on the first few weeks, maybe even the first month of Classic, but I promise you, once that dies down and the server really comes into its own, that is it. There is no cross-realming. There is no realm hopping. There is no more layering at that point. You are going to be known as that character for the entire lifespan of Classic's basically existence. So be sure you take the time and really get all the intricate details nailed down. Tip number 4, own your class fantasy. Okay, so What I mean by own your class fantasy is quite simple, really. Hunters own the fact that you have traps, you can track multiple mob types, and that you have a pet that can tank a lot of mob damage for you. Own that class fantasy. Live it out. Warlocks own the fact that you have fears, you have demons, and that you have a healthy dose of damage over time effects, not to mention hellstones, summoning rituals, so many things that only you can do in Classic. Whereas in the modern iteration, so many different classes can do similar things. Almost every class I know has a way to heal themselves, has a way to escape, de-aggro themselves, get out of combat, so on and so forth. A lot of classes have these capabilities. They have shields, so on and so forth. Classic, you don't have that kind of opportunity. Like, for example, in Classic, only hunters, druids, and hunters, druids, rogues with the sprint, of course, have movement speed increases. Druids have their travel form. Oh, and shamans have ghost wolf, and hunters have aspect of the cheetah. No other class has a passive movement speed increase. Rogues have their sprint, but sprint is on such a long cooldown you can't even really count it. So keep those kind of things in mind and make sure that you let that be a key point in what class you choose to play. Own your class fantasy. Step number 5, or tip number 5, do not dread class quests. Okay, so what I mean by that is class quests, regardless of what level you do them at, whether it's the hunters, obtaining taming beast at level 10, or warriors with your whirlwind axe around level 30, and warlocks with their fell steed and dread steed mounts at 40 and 60, or paladins with their mounts 40 and 60. There are so many different class quests that are unique to each individual class, and some of them can be pretty daunting, especially the later level ones. For example, Benediction for priests, or Lochdelar for the hunters. There are so many things that are very daunting and can seem very just overwhelming at times, because you have to do all of these intricate steps to obtain this item or to finish this quest. Do not be overwhelmed, and do not let these quests seem daunting to you, because it's very true that these are things that modern WoW just don't have anymore. They just don't have them anymore. Matter of fact, you could probably say that the artifact weapons from Legion were the closest we've had to class unique quests and spec unique quests that we just don't have anymore. We haven't had them for a very long time. So take the opportunity to enjoy these for what they are. Record footage of you doing them, because I promise you, once you do them once, unless you level another character of the same class to 60, you're not going to be able to re-experience those. So take the time, relish them, enjoy them, record the footage of you doing them, put them on YouTube, put them somewhere on a hard drive. That way you can always go back and relive those moments. Tip number 6, professions can add to the fantasy. If you're a hunter, you might want to think about grabbing skinning and leatherworking, because it just adds an extra layer to the overall experience. If you're a rogue, you might want to grab herbs and alchemy to improve your poisons. Improve the fact that you're going to need blinding powder for your blind, or you're going to need additional poisons and herbs for your poisons. There are so many different things that can add to the experience of being a hunter, a rogue, a mage, a priest, a warlock, so on and so forth. I mean, one could even say that tailoring is an absolute must for any clothy, just because of the fact that they have, I think every cloth spec, mage, priest, warlock, has an actual dedicated robe for them to wear if they're a tailor. So there's a lot can be said there. But again, this goes back to min-maxing a little bit as well. You do not have to do this if you don't feel comfortable or you don't like the idea of adding to your class fantasy. If you just want to do engineering or mining, or if you want to do skinning and leatherworking, regardless of what class or race you are, go for it. Do whatever makes you happy. Tip number 7. Have a goal when you log in. Every single day, know what you want to achieve that day. Because here's the thing. Classic is so different from modern WoW. In modern WoW, there's 100 different things you can do, and you don't even have to think, which is really part of what makes modern WoW not very attractive to a lot of players, is the fact that Blizzard has taken the creative approach out of the player's hands. It's World Quest 24/7, Mythic Pluses at least once a week to get your 10 key, or to get your, get your 10 key for the chest, and then you get LFR. You want to do all the LFR wings for a week. Like, by the time you do all of the stuff that Blizzard's kind of just broken down for you, it literally just feels like you're logging in to put a check in a box. There's nothing unique. There's not a overwhelming experience that's going to allow you to just feel like you're adding to the world, or you're adding to the experience of not only yourself but to other players. There are so much things that you can do. You can help another player level from 1 to 60. I can't tell you how fast it would improve someone's gameplay time if they had a friend who was a level 40 or higher hunter with Aspect of the Pack just blitz them through zones. I mean, that would be incredible. There's no two-person mounts in vanilla, so that's the only way to get them around faster. Or have a friend that's got a couple of warlock buddies just scattered all over Azeroth to set them up for, summoning them over really quickly. That is a really cool thing that I might try and do on my own stream, is see how fast we can level someone 1 to 60 by utilizing summonings from warlocks. How much easier would it be to have a warlock summon you from Ironforge to Darnassus or Darkshore, instead of having to catch the tram, catch the boat, so on and so forth? There's so much more that you can do. You can farm best in slot, you can progress a certain profession. There's so much you can do. So have a goal and know what you want to do and move towards that goal. Tip number 8, and this kind of goes back to step number 7. Tip number 7 is never stop moving. Even if you achieve your goal, even if you achieve the goal you set for yourself that day, don't stop moving. If you've got time to play, if you've got time to spend time with your friends, jump in Discord with your buddies, find out what they've got going on, see if you can help them. Farm for best in slot, level your professions, help a friend. All of these things add to the overall experience, and I promise you, the more time you spend actually being involved in something, the more opportunity there is to have those memories that will never go away. You'll have them for the rest of your life. I've got friends that I made in vanilla that actually have shaped how I live my life today. I had a buddy who introduced me to technology on a scale to which I've never experienced before, and now I build my own PCs, have for over a decade and a half now, and I have helped people buy PC parts. I have actually gotten a career in IT because of this. There are so many things that, like the job I did in the Navy, or the classes I went to school for in college, all of these things were influenced by me meeting this individual and spending time with this person just in the world. And that is the opportunity that a lot of people can have that can impact your life forever. So never stop moving, because the more time you spend just spending time with others, I'm not talking about no-lifing, I'm talking about you got a select slot amount of time that you can play. If you achieve a goal, or you don't even have a goal that day, just log in and see what other people are doing and see what you can do to lend them a hand. Tip number 9. Transmog. Wait, Zera, what are you talking about? Transmog doesn't exist in Classic. Exactly. Transmog does not exist in Classic, so you have to be sure to weigh stats and impact over fashion, okay? Now, I know a lot of people are probably thinking, well, duh, that's what Classic is supposed to be. That was a no-brainer. Okay, but remember, we're weighing Classic against, what, 5 expansions worth now, where Transmog has been in the game? Maybe 6 expansions? So this is something that we're fighting against the grain. People have always wanted to have Transmog since it's been implemented because of what it adds to their playstyle, what it adds to their look, their feel of their class. I promise you, Transmog is a very attractive feature, but the fact that it's not in Classic, the fact that you can roll up in Ironforge or into Stormwind and roll up on somebody who's a level 60 and you see them wearing full Dragonstalker, full Beaststalker, or, let's say Warlock. So you roll up on a Warlock and he's wearing full Nemesis, full Fellheart, or you roll up on a Warrior and he's got full Wrath, or you roll up on a Paladin and he's got full Judgment. I mean, these are the kind of things that add to the experience, and you're like, oh my gosh, that guy is, oh my gosh, I can't wait to put in the time and have the opportunity to become that guy. It gives you something to aim for. It gives casual players the idea in their mind, hey, you know what, if he can do it, so can I. And it's another aspect of World of Warcraft that has faded over time is the fact that you don't know what somebody's wearing just based on how they look like. You can't do that. You can't judge that. And it's really horrible because of the fact that epic gear is so easily, so easily obtainable in modern WoW, because that used to give players an incentive to work harder to get better at their class, get better at the game, which again can only help the server, can only help the economy, can only help the overall experience for everybody on the server. So again, tip number 9, weigh stats and impact over fashion. It's just how Classic is. Own that fact, and you'll have much more fun for it. And the last one, tip number 10, and this is a no-brainer, and this was basically what the first 9 have all been encompassing, and I've always come back to this. Play what makes you happy. Surround yourself with players who feel the same way about Classic that you do, that have the same aspirations, the same goals that you do. If you're the kind of individual like myself who no-lifed World of Warcraft for years and years and years when I was younger, when I had no obligations, no responsibilities, and I made friends this way, I was kind of an introvert. I didn't really feel comfortable in public settings, but World of Warcraft was a place I could come to enjoy and to relish and to just share those experiences with others. If that's who you are, and that's what Classic can be for you, absolutely live it out. But if you're more like me now, in the sense that I have a family, I have a wife, and I have a full-time career, I've got responsibilities and obligations that I have to meet, okay, slice out a 3 or 4 day schedule for yourself where you can play for a couple hours, and maybe one day out of the week give yourself that one day where you can dedicate maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of playtime when you don't have to meet any obligations. Or maybe you can make an arrangement with your family to say, hey, I just want this one day to myself so I can play with my friends. If that's what you have to do, be sure you do it, and you do it in a mature way. Be mature about your choices and be overall responsible. Blizzard has to put those little tips at the bottom of the loading screens where it says all things in moderation, especially World of Warcraft. This is without a doubt going to be true in Classic, because Classic can really suck you in. This is what got a lot of us players back in the day. When Blizzard peaked at 12, 13 million subscribers between between Vanilla, BC, Wrath, this is what did it, because the world is so immersive and can suck you in so easily. So make sure you slice out a piece of your schedule to where you can dedicate solely to this, and then say, okay, I've reached my goal. We talked about this. Have a goal. Reach your goal daily. If you reach your goal, have something else you can do on the back burner to progress in those hours that you have, because you never want to give yourself an opportunity to feel like you're not achieving something, and it makes you feel like, oh, I have to stay on longer today because I didn't get anything done in the last couple hours. No, if you have a goal, if you have things on the back burner that you can progress afterwards, it will go a long way towards giving you a sense of fulfillment and make you feel less guilty about logging off and putting it off for a couple more days and then coming back to it later. And not to mention the fact, this is just an overarching bonus tip. If you follow all of these tips, it's not only going to improve your gaming experience, it's not only going to give you an opportunity to make more friends more quickly and easier than it would if you didn't follow these tips, but it's also going to do a great deal of benefit to making you feel like you're actually achieving something in the game, to where when you walk away from it for a day, 2 days, 3 days, and you happen to catch yourself thinking, oh, you know what? When I log back in on Thursday or whatever your day is of the week that you're going to be able to log in next, you know exactly what it is you can do, and you can take notes about where you're going, what you're going to do, what your plan is, and you're going to have a plan, you're going to have a goal, and you're going to be able to pursue that, and you're going to be able to achieve it. Because giving yourself that 2 or 3 day, maybe even 4 day break period between playtime can go a long way towards giving you an actual idea and a direction in which to go when you log back in, which I promise you is going to add an incredible layer of detail and immersion to the game. Alright, so there you go, guys. That is the 10 tips and tricks towards improving your class and overall game fantasy. As always, guys, I love you. Keep up the great work. Stay kind to one another. And I will see you in the next video, which will be another video about tips and tricks in Classic. I've got 3 or 4 other subject layers that we can discuss. There's so much more to this, and a shout out to my boy Grez, my single sole patron at the moment. Thank you for giving me this suggested video. I'm sorry it took a while, had lots of things going on this week, but you know what? We're moving forward with a positive attitude, and I'll see you guys on the stream next week on Tuesday. Love you guys. See you in the next video. Zera out.